Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today I'm going to be doing some Eldlich test hands. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like getting your name description in a single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your Patreon. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So I'm really excited to show you guys these Eldlich test hands because Eldlich is just such a powerful trap deck that can easily control the board by just basically setting 5 and passing, with all sorts of crazy powerful plays to be able to establish an insane board. And Eldlich was actually the very first deck that I played on Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel because of how powerful it is on Master Duel. Being able to just play all sorts of trap cards out your opponent's board and stop them in their tracks is amazing, and I'm super excited to show you guys what kind of boards Eldlich can actually make with just a few monsters, which is crazy. And even though the archetype only has technically one main deck monster, being Eldlich the Golden Lord, aka Eldlich the Golden Gucci Lord, we do have trap monsters in the deck that can really stop your opponent and even do some really insane plays. So now that we got the deck pile shuffle, because you guys know it's dad rule number 1 that you always got to pile shuffle the deck or you run the risk of bricking, we're going to go ahead and give the deck a quick shuffle and then see what we can do for our first test hand. There's a lot of traps, and you're going to see a lot of traps in the opening hand, but that's actually what we want to see in this deck. So let's go ahead and give the deck a quick shuffle and see what we can do. So we're going to go ahead and draw. We're going to draw into a copy of Eldlich the Golden Lord, aka Eldlich the Golden Gucci Lord, a copy of Ice Dragon Prison, Elixir the Scarlet Sanguine, a copy of Ice Dragon Prison, and a copy of Skill Drain. So this is a really broken Eldlich hand right off the bat. So it's going to be very simple what we're actually going to establish going first. You always want to go first with Eldlich as something very important as you play this deck. But what we're going to do is we're just going to set 4 and pass. So we're just going to set 4 cards to our side of the field, have our copy of Eldlich the Golden Lord in our hand, and we're going to pass over the opponent and let them do whatever they want to do. And we have some really insane plays that once they put a monster in the graveyard, we can actually activate Ice Dragon Prison to be able to take one of our monsters out of the graveyard, put it on our side of the field, and then banish a monster that they control that has the same type as that monster, which is just insane. So we can deal with basically 2 monsters at the exact same time with this card, which is just crazy powerful. So we can deal with a card like that. We have the copy of Skill Drain that we can use it as basically a negate, which is just really good because all of our cards resolve off the field or in our hand or in the graveyard. So this card is just really good because Eldlich does not resolve on the field. He activates in the hand. So this card doesn't even affect Eldlich, which is just really cool. We have a copy of the Ice Dragon Prison that we can get another monster back, and we have a copy of Scarlet Sanguine, so we can actually bring out a copy of Eldlich to our side of the field, which is really good. I love activating Scarlet Sanguine against the opponent because this card is basically like E-Telly for the deck, getting a copy of Eldlich on our side of the field. Plus, it has graveyard abilities, which all of our Eldlich traps activate. They are once per turn, but we do have the ability on the follow-up turn that we can just banish it from the graveyard to be able to set one of our golden land cards from our deck to our side of the field, which is really good because it gets our trap monsters. Basically, our trap monsters get our Elixirs, and our Elixirs get our trap monsters, which is really important to keep in mind about this deck. So you're probably going to do this on your turn. You're probably just going to activate the Ice Dragon Prison and the copy of the Skill Drain. So now at this point, we're going to go back into our turn, and we're going to draw for turn to do a copy of Solemn Strike. And the really cool thing about this is opening up the copy of Eldlich in this particular hand. It lets you send a card that's spell and trap from your hand to the grave, and then target any card on the field and send it to the grave. So we can actually use this card to be able to deal with the card on our opponent's side of the field. And I really love that you can also send a spell or trap you control to the graveyard to instantly special summon this card. Basically, it adds itself back to your hand, and you summon it as a 3,500 attack point monster, which is really insane, that cannot be destroyed by card effects. So it just gets huge on our side of the field to be able to basically go in for game. So we're going to do that. We're going to go ahead and use its ability to be able to send itself to the graveyard with our Solemn Strike. Then we're going to use its effect to be able to send our copy of our Ice Dragon Prison to the graveyard to be able to add it back to our hand. And then once we add it back to our hand, we can then special summon it, and it'll come out at 3,500. We then also have our other Eldlich on our side of the field, so we basically have swarmed the board, And we have our copy of our Scarlet Sanguine in the graveyard that lets us banish this card from the graveyard, and then we get to set a Golden Land spell or trap directly from the deck, which is insane that we just get to set it to our side of the field. So usually what I like to set to my side of the field, so for the follow-up, when my opponent does inevitably normal summon something or set something, I set the copy of the Conquistador. If they set any back row, you can just use this card, which is just really good because you special summon it as a normal monster that's a light level 5 with 500 attack and 1800 defense, and then it destroys any face-up card on the field. So you can't pop back row that's set, but you can basically pop face-up monsters that your opponent tries to normal summon, which is really, really good. So we're going to set it to our side of the field. We can do 35 directly, we do 25 directly, and then you basically pass with this. You can go into a bunch of different extra deck plays, but really the only one that you can really go into is Gustav Max. So you can turn the copy of the skill drain off if you want to, overlay into Gustav Max, do the last 2000 if you want to do it that way, instead of sending Ice Dragon Prison to the graveyard. But I always like to just establish the skill drain and keep it on the field, just in case my opponent has like a negate or something like that waiting around the corner. So I just basically play it out and played a little bit more defensively with the skill drain. So basically you just establish the fields like this, which is really, really good. So drawing into next turn, we're going to draw into a copy of Torrential. Torrential's not going to do that much at this point because we have both of our Eldlich on the field. We can just swing and win at that point because we've already out-resourced the opponent. And that's something to keep in mind about this deck, is you're basically just trying to out-resource your opponent. So as you're playing this deck, make sure that you're counting how many cards that you're basically dealing with at a given time. With cards like Torrential, dealing with like 2 or 3 monsters at a time is going to get you major advantage. Using Ice Dragon Prison to deal the card in the graveyard while also dealing with a monster on the field. Using cards like Skill Drain to stop your opponent from searching is like a 1-for-1, which is insane. To be able to just basically stop your opponent in their tracks is just really, really good. Floodgates are insane in this deck. Cards like Heavenly Prison are really good because Lord of the Heavenly Prison lets you set anything, so it's basically like a +1, which is just really, really good. So we're going to go ahead and shuffle it up and see what we can do for our next test hand. Keep in mind about this deck that it's all about basically card economy, about how many cards you can keep on your side of the field while controlling the board. So it's very defensive what you're trying to do. So we're going to go ahead and draw into the next turn, and we're going to draw into a copy of Scarlet Sanguine, Pot of Extravagance, Ice Dragon Prison, Torrential Tribute, Dogmatic Punishment. So this is actually really, really good right off the bat. I'm going to go ahead and activate a copy of Extravagance. Now keep in mind, it doesn't super matter what we actually hit off of Extravagance. We're going to go ahead and quickly pile shuffle the extra deck just to show you guys why I play what I play in the extra deck. Because it's really important to be able to keep cards in the extract for Dogmatic Punishment, but you don't really summon from the extract all that often. You want to keep like one of this, at least a Gustav Max, but we have so many different targets. The Chaos Angel's not even super necessary, but like we're going to go ahead and banish 6, so we're going to go banish right there, just these random 6, or we'll shuffle it up really quick just to show you guys it's completely random, and we're going to go ahead and get rid of 6. We're going to get rid of these 3 and these 3 right here, and let's see what we actually banish. So with this, we're going to get rid of both of our Gustav Maxes, a set of these, Chaos Angel and the Elder Emptiness, which again, we still have options in the extract. We have Typhon, we have Pleiades, we have more Dogmatic Punishment targets, we have everything that we need, and we're going to get a draw too, because we were already just basically set up. We get Lord of the Heavenly Prison. This is an excellent hand. This is excellent hand. So what we're going to do with this is we're going to go ahead and reveal the Lord of the Heavenly Prison in our hand to our opponent, because it has the ability to reveal it to protect our back row, and then you just set 5. That's why I like playing the copy of Pot of Extravagance in this deck over the copies of Prosperity, because I feel like the draw 2 and trap decks is just so much more important than the reveal 6, because then your opponent knows what you're setting to your side of the field, and this way they kind of walk into the back row. So Lord of the Heavenly Prison is insane in this deck, because basically you activate this effect that you reveal it in your hand into the opponent's end of their turn, and while it's revealed, set cards on the field cannot be destroyed by card effects, so it protects you from like Feather Duster, stuff like that. Not Cosmic, not evenly matched, but cards like MST, Feather Duster, back row pops, anything like that, it can protect you from stuff like that. So When your opponent goes, make sure that when they do normal summon, you have cards like Torrential to be able to pop. Let them get like 2 monsters on the field. This is usually good to activate during end phase. You can either use this to get a draw or get an extra pop, because you can either send Elder Emptiness to get an additional pop, or you can send the copy of the Tri-Brigade card and then send Yugioh right behind it because of the effect of the Tri-Brigade card. This is to out big monsters or anything, and this is going to give you an additional draw. Usually I send this to be able to get an additional draw over the copy of the Elder Emptiness. This is going to get you at least a pop and a draw, or 2 pops. You have the skill drain just to stop them in their tracks. You have this card to revive a card, which is insane. We get a card on our side of the field, and we have the copy of the Scarlet Sanguine, which Scarlet Sanguine is just really good to be able to just instantly get a Golden Lord on our side of the field. So you can see, like, it's so easy that even though you don't play but 3, like I play 3 Golden Lord in my build. Some people play 2, I like 3. I've always liked 3. But it's really important to be able to get this dude on the field because, and it's so easy to, because you play 3 copies of Scarlet Sanguine, you play the Conquistador, and you play 3 Conquistador, and you play 2 Huaqueros, so you already have like 3, 6, 8 monsters in the deck, plus Lord of the Heavenly Prison to get to any trap that you want. Like your Conquistador or your Scarlet Sanguine, which is going to get to this anyways. So you play so many different ways to be able to get to him. It's ridiculous. Like, and plus you have so many monsters to control the board, because your opponent's monsters with Ice Dragon Prison turn into our monsters. So you establish insane fields like this, which is just crazy. This is going to turn off all monsters. This is going to give us a draw, so we can basically use it like this. You sim this, its effect goes off in the graveyard. You send Yugioh on top of it. You out a card on the field. We get to draw an additional card, so we're going to draw in another copy of Scarlet Sanguine, which is just going to help us out a lot. We have this, revive monster, banish a monster. We have Torrential that we would have activated first before we activate the Scarlet Sanguine, so keep that in mind. You're going to activate the Torrential first. Use this card, pop a card on the field, at least 1. Then we're going to use the Scarlet Sanguine, bring out the copy of the Eldlich to our side of the field. And once we do with that, you're just going to get this card to be able to just instantly get Eldlich on the field. And then you also have Skill Drain to be able to turn off monster effects. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and draw into the next turn. This is turn 3. We're going to draw into a Dogmatic Punishment. This is really good in our hand because now we can just set these to our side of the field. And then we can switch our copy of Eldlich to attack position, swing for 25, and then pass and let our opponent go. Make sure that you re-reveal your copy of Lord to be able to protect your back row. Then during the opponent's turn, we can go again, use our copy of Dogmatic Punishment again, and this time we're going to get a double pop because we're going to use it with our copy of our Elder Emptiness. Elder Emptiness is really good to be able to send because it's going to get us 2 pops, because 1 off of the Dogmatic Punishment, 1 off the Elder Emptiness, pop 1, pop 2, which is really good to be able to just deal with card economy again. And that's what this deck is all about. It's all about being defensive and just popping cards and controlling the board with your back row, which is really cool. And then we also have the Scarlet Sanguine that we can activate. You can use the one in the graveyard to be able to place one of your golden lands, but I always like to just instantly get more Golden Lords on the field because it's going to help us overall to get more cards on our side of the field. And also keep in mind that you cannot summon Lord of the Heavenly Prison after you activate the copy of the Eldlich, because this card says that you cannot summon monsters except for zombies for the rest of the turn, which is a little bit of a downside, but you really want to keep this in your hand anyways. So we're going to go ahead and let our opponent go. They're going to pass back over to us. We're going to draw a Summon Limit, switch this to attack position, banish the copy of the Scarlet. We could have done that beforehand if we wanted to. Set the copy of the Conquistador if we want to, and then just keep going, and you establish insane boards. Keep in mind, that's something that you really need to, like, as you're playing this deck, watch out for, that you want to activate this during the opponent's turn, and then during our turn, we banish it to be able to set a copy of Conquistador or Huaquero. We didn't do that for that time, but it's totally fine. You can still do it, which is really nice, because both of the effects are once per turn, but only either or. You can't activate both effects in the same turn. So that's why you activate the copy of Scarlet during the opponent's turn, summon a Golden Lord, then during our turn, banish it, summon another or set a copy of a Golden Land card. So let's go ahead and shuffle it up again and see what we can do for our next test hand. A lot of people don't like opening up Golden Lord, but I actually do like opening up Golden Lord, especially if you're going like second, because if you're going second, you don't have a lot of ways to respond to the opponent. So you can use Golden Lord to be able to basically just deal with cards on the field, which is really nice, and get like a Huaquero in the graveyard, and then banish the Huaquero during end phase, and then set a copy of Scarlet, which is going to get you basically 2 Golden Lords, which is really, really good. So we're going to draw into Durham Cannon. This card's really interesting, and I have a really cool thing about this card to show you guys. We draw in a Conquistador, Skill Drain, Elixir, and a copy of Conquistador. So this is pretty good. So we're set 5 pass. Again, that's what the deck does. You're just setting 5 and passing over and over again. And that's okay. That's what you're trying to do with this deck. That's what the way the deck functions. And I love that about this deck. So what we're going to do with this particular hand is we're actually not going to set the Conquistador, the second one. We're going to keep it in our hand because you can use it if you draw into a copy of the Golden Lord, or you can set it to your side of the field if you want to. Actually, let's set it because I'm going to show you why we play Chaos Angel. So what we're going to do with this particular hand is we're just going to set 5 to our side of the field. And once we set the 5, we're going to set a Conquistador in each pendulum scale because we want to set our scales. We're going to set this here and we're going to set these here. So once we're passed over the opponent, the cool thing is about this is, let's say that your opponent establishes a monster that's like Raid Raptor, Ultimate Falcon, Full Armor Master, The Arrival, Adignist, or any of those cards that cannot be affected by cards. So there's a really cool thing about, you want to flip this first, then you want to activate the Destructive Dorma Cannon. The Dorma Cannon says change as many monsters on the field as possible to face down defense position. Then if either player controls face up monsters, they must send all monsters that they control to the graveyard. So an interesting thing about this card is it actually says they must send cards to the graveyard. So this card actually affects the player and not affects the monsters. So since the monster is unaffected and unable to be flipped face down, they'll actually be sent to the graveyard, which is really important because this card affects the player and not the monsters themselves. So since they aren't flipped down, the player controls the monsters at that point. So any of those unaffected towers monsters, this card actually outs, which is why Dorma Cannon is so good being a Book of Eclipse. So at that point, once we basically deal with our opponent's board, we're going to go ahead and flip the copy of the Elixir. Elixir is going to get us a copy of our Golden Lord on our side of the field. And let's just say that they have any 2 face-up cards on the field at this point. Maybe like a field spell and a monster that they like special summoned after the fact of Dorma Cannon. We can flip the Conquistador, pop that monster on the side of the field, and then we're going to go to our turn and we're going to draw, and we're going to draw an Ice Dragon Prison, and we're going to flip the other copy of Conquistador, and we're going to use it to be able to pop an additional card on the field. And here's where things get interesting. So let's say that we don't have the skill drain face up. You can use both of these for one of 2 plays. These are level 5 while they're on the field. So you can either overlay them for Pleiades if you don't have skill drain. But if you do have skill drain face up, we can go a different route. By sending these to the graveyard, you can actually go in for Chaos Angel, which is just a big 3,500 under skill drain. Because it doesn't require tuners, it just requires light and dark monsters to make it. You can actually make this because 2 5s equals 10. This is level 10, so you make this dude. And then plus we have the Golden Lord, so now we have like 6k damage on field. Plus we have Ice Dragon Prison to be able to resurrect something. And we have, during our turn, make sure you guys are doing this, banish the copy of the Scarlet, because we activated that during the opponent's turn to get our copy of Golden Lord. So now at this point, we can get our 3rd copy of our Conquistador to give us another pop for whatever opponent normal summons. It's already not going to have an effect because of our copy of Skill Drain. So let's just say they normal summon something. We can use the copy of the Conquistador to be able to pop it on our side of the, or on their side of the field, and then keep going and just go in for game with these cards, which is insane. I love that about this deck, that it's so easy to be able to establish. Also, during our opponent's end phase, we have the ability, during the end phase, you can banish this to be able to set another Elixir, so we can actually get another Golden Lord on our side of the field. If we don't activate this during our opponent's turn, we activate it during our turn. So we're going to go ahead and set this to our side of the field, and once we do, during the end phase, we can go ahead and pass, since we did use the ability of this card. This card is actually a once per turn. You can only use one effect of it per turn, and only once that turn, unfortunately. It's how they balance these trap monsters, because they'd be broken otherwise. The deck would be too fast if they didn't. But we're going to go ahead and pass over to the opponent, let them do what they want during their end phase. During their end phase, we're going to banish this, and we're going to go ahead and set to our side of the field during their end phase a copy of Scarlet Sanguine. This is just going to set to our side of the field, and then we're going to pass back over to us. We're going to go ahead and draw into a copy of our Summon Limit. Now at this point, what we can do is we can actually activate Scarlet. We are locked into zombies. We are locked into zombies under this card only, which is really important to keep in mind. Our trap cards don't lock us, which is really nice. But now we can summon out another Golden Gucci Lord to our side of the field. which is super, super cool. And then we also have the ability of our other Conquistador that we can activate, pop a monster, pop a face-up card, and then we have Ice Dragon Prison to take a card from our opponent's graveyard, and then use Swing with this. Something else cool about this is if you really want to get this into the graveyard, there's also another way you can get it in the graveyard that I'm going to show you guys really quickly. You can actually link it away for a copy of Link Spider. Link Spider is another way that you can actually get out your copy of your Conquistador into the graveyard. It gives it an additional 500 attack because Conquistador is a 500 attack. This is 1,000 attack, so it gives you a basically 500 boost. And then you can also set your copy of your summon limit. You have Ice Dragon Prison that can take something from the graveyard, so you can use it with your Link Spider to keep going if you want to. You don't have any other things that you really want to link for with this deck, so we don't play anything else. But you also have Typhon that you can make if your opponent special summons more than twice, which is why I really like this card in the deck, because it's just basically walking skill drain for your monsters. But since skill drain's on the field, just basically is a 2,900 attack point monster that's free. If they special summon 2 more times from the extra deck on the turn, this turn, or the following turn. So that's something else to keep in mind. Usually it's on the follow-up that you activate it, but you have summon limit to lock them down. So I think that's going to pretty much explain Eldlich to you guys and how the deck plays. It's basically set 5 pass, control the board, keep in mind your card economy as you're playing the deck. Make sure that you're keeping up with your +1s and your -1s as you're going through the deck, and counting your opponent's cards. Like, you want to make sure that if they start with 5 and then you can pop 2. If you can turn off a card where they're not going to be able to like let's say that they normal summon something and you know they're about to special summon something. Don't just immediately activate Torrential. Wait on the Torrential till they have 2 on the field. Then activate the Torrential and get 2 monsters instead of 1 with Torrential. And then cards like Summon Limit, you can lock them down mid-combo because it counts for like the player summoning more than once that turn. So you can just flip this card and lock them down where they can't summon anymore, so they're going to get stuck with cards. Durham Cannon's really good because you can like lock down certain cards that they have on the field and flip them face down, which is really nice. Popping cards with Conquistador, because it's basically we're popping one and we're getting to keep one, which is really nice. Cards like Gozen Rivalry still being at 1 is insane, because you're just going to be able to like honestly deal with their field, because if they put different types or attributes on the field and you flip depending on which one, you're going to be able to just board wipe them as well. So you can basically go in, because we're only summoning light zombies outside of our outside of Heavenly Prison. Heavenly Prison we don't even have to summon. We can just keep it in our hand and keep revealing it over and over again to protect back row. And you don't have to summon those cards from the extra deck. You don't have to at all. You can just basically keep them in the extra deck. So that's something to keep in mind as you're playing the deck. So I think that pretty much explains Eldlich. Eldlich is pretty simple to play, but it's all about basically making sure you have more cards than your opponent, which is really important to keep in mind as you're playing this deck. But it's a wildly fun deck. I love playing this deck because it's just really amazing to be able to control the board with. And there's so many different ways you can play Eldlich, but I really like the pure version like this. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of Notification Squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.